Hi, and welcome to this week's story time. Today's story is all about a man called Saul. Now, Saul was very good. If he'd been your age and his mum had said to him, "Saul, it's time for bed, clear away those toys," he'd have done it straight away. He was just very, very good. Well, the trouble with Saul was that he wasn't very nice. In fact, Saul was very mean. He hated people who loved Jesus. He didn't believe Jesus was alive. And so he travelled around the country looking for people who loved Jesus so he could throw them into prison. But Jesus had a different plan for Saul. One day, Saul was travelling to a city called Damascus when suddenly there was a blinding light, like a flash of lightning, so bright that Saul fell off his horse onto the ground. He shielded his eyes from the brightness. Then he heard a loud voice, "Saul, why are you fighting me?" Saul was terrified. "Who are you?" he said. "I'm Jesus," said the voice. "When you hurt my friends, you hurt me." Saul was shaking with fear. Jesus said, "Go to the city and I'll tell you what to do next." Slowly, Saul pulled his hands away from his eyes. But when he did that, he discovered he couldn't see a thing. He was blind. He had to ask his servant to take his hand and lead him into the city because he couldn't see the way. Well, at the same time, in the city, there lived a man called Ananias, and he loved Jesus. Ananias was having a nap when Jesus spoke to him in his dream. He said, "Ananias, Saul is coming to town, and I want you to go and see him and pray for him." Ananias said, "Jesus, I really don't want to do that. Saul is mean, especially to people like me who love you." "Ananias, I'd like you to go to Saul and pray for him." Well, Ananias loved Jesus, so he did what he said. He was a bit scared, but he knocked on the door of the house that Jesus had told him to go to. And Saul's servant answered. Ananias went in and saw Saul sitting there, completely blind. Ananias said to Saul, "Jesus sent me to come and pray for you so that you could see again." Ananias prayed, and suddenly Saul could see everything. But that wasn't the only thing that changed. Jesus changed his name to Paul because he was very different. Now he loved Jesus too. He knew Jesus was alive. And so from that day on, he travelled around the country, not throwing people who loved Jesus into prison, but telling them that Jesus was alive. You don't have to be very, very good at being good for Jesus to love you, he said. You just have to believe that he died for you, he came alive again. Love him and follow him. And so lots of people did. Now, that's the end of our story today about Saul, who became Paul, a very different man, because he realized that Jesus was alive and Jesus is the King. And that's what our song is about today. We're going to sing it, clap along, and we're going to sing Jesus is the King together. See you next time. Bye.